Hey, everybody. Welcome, Reach Out and Read of Greater New York family. We're excited to have you back for another workshop today. This is, believe it or not, Reach Out and Read of Greater New York's 42nd Reach Out and Connect workshop, and we're talking all about graphic novels. I'll start with introductions. I'm Carrie Kurjak with Reach Out and Read of Greater New York. And on, we also have Isabella Lizarazo, who is going to work as our translator today. And we also all introduce the other team members that are here. We have Nardine and Miriam, who are also joining us from Reach Out and Read. All right, and I will also be translating into Spanish. Please forgive my grammar. Bienvenido a Reach Out and Read GNY's 42 Reach Out and Connect workshop sobre novelas gráficas. Empezaré con las presentaciones. Soy Carrie Kurjak con ROR GNY y tenemos a Isabella Lizarazo de regreso como nuestra traductora. Graphic novels have existed for a long time, but there's always been kind of a stigma that they're not as educational for children as reading other more traditional books. Today, we're going to work to break down that stigma by learning more about what graphic novels exactly are and the incredible benefits of graphic novels. So today we're excited to have Moni Barrette and Maggie P. Chang here to answer parents' top questions on graphic novels. Moni Barrette is the president-elect of the American Library Association's Graphic Novel and Comics Roundtable. And Maggie P. Chang is an author and illustrator of the Geraldine Pu series, which I have right here. A fun graphic novel series made for young children. So we're so excited to have both of you guys here today. We'll translate that into Spanish and get started. Las novelas gráficas existen desde hace mucho tiempo, pero siempre ha existido el estigma de que no son tan educativas para los niños como leer otras libros más tradicionales. Pero hoy vamos a acabar con ese estigma, aprendido qué son exactamente las novelas gráficas y los increíbles beneficios de las novelas gráficas. Hoy estamos emocionados de tener a Moni Barrette y Maggie P. Chang aquí para responder las preguntas principales de los padres sobre las novelas gráficas. Moni Barrette es la presidenta electa de la Mesa Redonda de Cómicas y Novelas Gráficas de la Asociación Estadounidense de Bibliotecas, y Maggie P. Chang es autora y ilustradora de la serie Geraldine Pu, una divertida serie de novelas gráficas hecha para niños pequeños. Gracias a ambos por acompañarnos. Gracias a todos. Thanks everyone for joining us. Super excited to ask these questions now. All right, and our first question is a three-parter. What are graphic novels? Are there particular types of graphic novels? And how do you go about writing a graphic novel? En español, ¿qué son las novelas gráficas? ¿Existen tipos particulares de novelas gráficas? ¿Cómo se hace para escribir una novela gráfica? Let's start with Moni. Can you take that question first?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everybody. Graphic novel is usually an educator term or an industry term for longer or a collection of comic books. So if you go to the comic book shop, you get the little series periodicals, but a graphic novel is basically a collection of all of those into volumes. It's kind of the same as traditional print novels. They do it by genre, like fantasy, nonfiction, horror, romance, and also by age, such as kids, teens, and young adults. And I'm not myself a writer of graphic novels, so I will save the third part for Maggie.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
Moni. I also just wanted to say so happy to be here with all of you, all the families. And yes, so graphic novels, I like to think about it very simply. I think of the two words graphic, novel. And so a novel is a book that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's graphic. They're pictures. So what the difference for me when I think about comics and graphic novels is oftentimes graphic novels do have that structure with the beginning, middle, and end of a story. And in terms of how I go about creating one, takes a long time, but usually I start with the words. So I'll write down all the words, and oftentimes pictures will be in my mind as I'm writing the words, and I'll make a note as I'm writing. So I might say, something like the narration line and then the dialogue line, and then in parentheses I'll put the girl is at the table eating her lunch. So that's not actually something you would read, but you would see. So it's all down on one piece of paper, actually several pieces of paper. And then I'll print it out and I'll mark with a pencil where I think the page turn should be. So I'll say, ooh, all these words and all these pictures would work well on one page. All these would work well on another page. And I'll just keep going. And the tricky part is usually books have a set number of pages. So I have to make sure it all fits in to a certain number of pages. Sometimes that doesn't work. So then I'll have to either add some more stuff or cut some more stuff out. And that's usually a hard part of revising. But once that all fits together, then I draw the pictures. And oftentimes when I draw the pictures, I'll realize like, ooh, the words and the pictures are kind of saying the same thing. That's not necessary. Or like, ooh, that worked out much better in my head. I'm going to change the words here or there. So it's not like once you're done with the words, you cannot go back and change them. You can always jump back and forth between words and pictures until it feels just right. And that's my process. And then I think the other question Moni did a great job answering, which is, yep, they're all different kind of genres and for all different ages.
Awesome. Awesome. I love the insight you both bring with your own specialties. Wonderful. Let me translate for Moni. Moni dice, novela gráfica es generalmente un término para educadores para una colección de cómicas o cómicas más largos. Los tipos son prácticamente los mismos que los de las novelas impresas tradicionales por género, como fantasía, no ficción, terror, romance, memorias y más. Y por edad como niños, adolescentes y adultos.
And I'll translate for Maggie. Sí, una novela gráfica es como dijo Moni, tiene la palabra novela, que significa que tiene una estructura inicial, intermedia y final. Personalmente escribo una novela gráfica escribiendo primero las palabras de la historia y el diálogo, y las imágenes que me vienen a la mente las describiré entre paréntesis en una nota de arte. Por ejemplo, si hay una niña sentada comiendo, escribo, va a ser una niña sentada comiendo. Y luego decido cuántas palabras e imágenes irán en cada página. Hay un límite de páginas, entonces lo tengo que hacer de acuerdo. Y entonces empiezo a dibujar cada página. Las palabras cambiarán un poco a medida que las dibuje, porque es posible que no todas se junten de la manera que imaginé cuando estaba escribiendo las palabras. Entonces tengo que hacer esas decisiones.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Great. Let's move on then. Next question. At what age can parents start reading graphic novels to children? And kind of then at what age can children actually start to read graphic novels on their own? En español, ¿a qué edad pueden los padres comenzar a leer novelas gráficas a sus hijos? ¿Y a qué edad pueden los niños comenzar a leer novelas gráficas por su cuenta? And let's start with Maggie on that one.
Okay, great. So like Moni was saying before, there are graphic novels for all different ages. So, I wouldn't necessarily take a graphic novel that was meant for middle school kids and teenagers and read that, or start with that for a kid who was younger, like 3 or so, I would start with one for younger kids like mine. So this is part of a series, actually. I'm not a series. It is part of a series, but it's part of a line that Simon and Schuster came out with. And there are a bunch of early reader, that's a category for kids who are learning how to read, early reader graphic novels. So they're set up for young kids. And what I really appreciate about these books is that our publisher thought about the fact that it can be kind of tricky to read in general, but then to read a graphic novel has also got its own thing going on. So this spread tells you how to read this book, and it tells you about the speech bubbles and the thought bubbles and the order that your eye is supposed to go in when you're reading. So people have found this to be really helpful. And, this line is set up for early readers. So when kids are of the age that they're reading, which can vary depending on the kid, they can be ready to read these early readers. And the 3 that I set up for you, there are levels. So this is level 1, level 2, and then mine would be level 3. So you can think accordingly to your reading level. But I also think that you can read these to your kids as picture books. So kids who are younger, 2, 3, who aren't quite reading yet, they can be great as picture books. And I did an experiment. She's less than 1. I have a baby, and I've been reading her these early readers, and she loves them. they're just like picture books. And I heard something that I thought was really smart. A parent that was reading my book, she was reading the left page, and her child was reading the right page. And then the next night they switched. So that was a way that they could read a book together. So if you're just starting to read, or just starting to read graphic novels, and it might take a little bit of learning, that's a nice strategy, I think.
So to co-sign off of that, as with traditional books, the reading of graphic novels can start at any age, and there are comics at all reading levels of interest, as Maggie kind of showed here. The early reader level stage, the modern educator and the modern publishers, such as Simon and Schuster, do a really good job of, there's no differentiation in those areas of what is an early reader traditional book versus what is an early reader comic or graphic novel. So what that means is, it's said that that kids should read, or early readers should read, around 200 early reader level books in order to become more proficient readers and be ready for the next level. And so really what you're doing is providing a reading ladder, is giving them choices in what they would want to read and allowing them to kind of move their way up those rungs. And there is a lot of evidence that allowing them to read what they want will get them there. And so comics are a big part of that. In my case, I have a little girl going into 2nd grade who reads really large, thick graphic novels at kind of like a tween rating level for the most part. And that's because she finds them more accessible when she opens the pages and sees fewer heavy blocks of words mixed with the illustrations. It makes her feel like this is something that I can try and accomplish. But in turn, she then wants to discuss it. Her reading comprehension is good. So yeah, there's no set age, because looking at pictures and print awareness is really important at any age. And just reading all the things all the time, including graphic novels, to add to your repertoire.
All right. Entonces, Maggie estaba diciendo que ciertas novelas gráficas para niños pequeños están diseñadas específicamente para primeros lectores. Diferentes novelas gráficas corresponden a diferentes niveles de leer, entonces es importante buscar eso para tu niño. Y la Geraldine Pu es un ejemplo de una novela gráfica diseñada para primeros lectores. Y también hay una línea de novelas gráficos que listos para leer de Simone y Schuster, de la que Geraldine Pu forma parte. La línea RTR es muy consciente sobre lo que podría hacer tropezar a un lector emergente y recomendaría buscar algo así para sus hijos que recién están comenzando a leer de forma independiente. Las novelas gráficas para niños más pequeños pueden funcionar bien como lectura en altavoz, de la misma manera que un libro ilustrado funciona como lectura en voz alta. También he oído hablar de leer juntos donde los padres leen la página de la izquierda y su hijo lee la página de la derecha. Y luego al día siguiente vuelven a leer el libro, pero intercambian las páginas.
Great. Y Moni dice, al igual con la lectora de libros tradicionales, la lectora de novelas gráficas pueden comenzar a cualquier edad. Hay cómics en todos los niveles de lectura y en todas las áreas de interés. Muchos niños en la etapa del lector temprano encuentran más accesible la lectura de novelas gráficas que los libros tradicionales, ya que hay más ilustraciones. Y usando a su hija como ejemplo, Moni dice, permita que sus hijos lean lo que quieran. Dejarles elegir es importante. Es genial como quieren hablar sobre lo que leen. Moving along. All right. Next question. How can graphic novels help children who may not like to read or are English language learners? I know there's a lot of benefits, especially thinking about graphic novels center around illustrations. I'd love you guys to share some of your thoughts on that. Let's go back to Moni first.
Sure. And as we know, a picture, it really is worth 1,000 words. There's a different type of literacy in being able to read the illustrated cues like facial expressions, settings, and situations. And that's both universal and it's a high level of comprehension, right? To be able to look at a scene and read what's going on there. So it's a really great way for ESL learners or new readers to put print learning into context of what's appearing on the pages. I think we've all had the experience of young children reading us a book, right? By looking at the pictures and telling us what's happening on each page. That's a big thing that comics enables people at all levels and all languages to do all together.
Yeah, so to add on to what Moni was saying, basically, I grew up as a visual learner. I really did what Moni was talking about, would look at the pictures and read the pictures. And so if you have kids who are visual learners, or if maybe words are not the way that they think or read a situation, this could be really accessible for them, and it can help them build confidence. So like Moni was saying before, it can be much less daunting than just big blocks of text. So if they can get through, hey, I read a whole book and there's an actual story and I got it, it makes them feel like it was an accomplishment and it boosts their confidence. So especially for reluctant readers, that's very helpful. And all the while, it's still a book, and so you're still getting reading comprehension skills, vocabulary, and just from the perspective of creating an early reader, we try to think about how the words and pictures go together. So the word says lunchbox, there's a picture of a lunchbox there. And it's really, you can know when you're picking up an early reader that people have thought about what kids are thinking about as they're learning to read and decode words. And so it's very supportive.
Great, thank you both. En español, la pregunta, ¿cómo pueden las novelas gráficas ayudar a los niños a que no les gusta leer o que están aprendiendo inglés? Y Moni dice, es tan cierto que una imagen vale más que 1000 palabras. Hay un tipo diferente de alfabetización para poder leer señales ilustradas, como expresiones fáciles, entornos y situaciones que es universal en el lenguaje y puede ayudar a los estudiantes de ESL a poner su letra a aprender en el contexto de lo que aparece en las páginas.
Sí. Am, y Maggie dijo que para añadir a lo que dijo Moni, ella creció como alguien que aprende con visuales y las palabras y las imágenes se apoyan entre sí porque funcionan bien para estudiantes visuales y para niños con dificultades de aprendizaje que pueden tener dificultades para leer. Las novelas gráficas pueden ayudar la confianza de los lectores reacios y de los estudiantes de ESL porque pueden ser más accesibles. Y terminar uno puede sentirse como un logro, todo mientras sigue enseñando a los niños vocabulario, habilidades de alfabetización y desarrollo social y emocional. Entonces ayuda a estos niños.
Wonderful. All right. Next question, kind of getting specific here with specific literacy skills. So how can graphic novels really improve storytelling and creativity among young children? Y en español, ¿qué habilidades específicas estimulan las novelas gráficas entre los niños? Let's start with Maggie. Oop, Maggie's still
I'm muted. Sorry about that. Yeah, great. So like I was saying, first question, there's a beginning and a middle and an end to these graphic novels. And so when kids are starting to think about their own stories, oftentimes very young kids might not get that structure down. And so there might be a lot of beginning and no ending, or maybe a lot of middle and a great ending, but weren't really sure about the beginning. So this helps them get that structure down with their own storytelling. And then I also think it might be a little obvious that with the pictures, kids will learn about art, but to break that down even more, the creativity with graphic novels involves certain layouts. So kids maybe won't be studying things like design literacy, but just even by reading it and looking at it, they'll get a good sense for spacing of layout and how to have balance in a layout, which are great design skills. And then I think that the heart of storytelling really is the emotional component. And so like Moni was saying before, there's lots of facial expressions and kids can tell from that just looking at these pictures that she's angry. She's really, really angry. And so the different body language and facial expressions that are depicted really help with not only the kids' emotional and social development, but in their storytelling too. They can bring that to life. And whether they're telling a story with words or they're drawing their own pictures as well. And one of the great things about graphic novels is there are multiple pictures on a page. So oftentimes it's like the same face over and over again. And so you really have to break down the different facial expressions. And, she was just angry, but now all of a sudden she's shocked at what she did. And then she feels sorry. And then she feels better. And so there's lots of different complicated things that you can get into with the emotional aspect, which, like I said, is like the heart of a story. And yeah, I think besides that, graphic novels also have great dialogue. So the speech bubbles, right? So when kids are writing their own stories and they have two or more characters talking, they kind of get this idea that characters take turns, there's a back and forth, and different things that come along with dialogue. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Maggie. I think I kind of combined two questions there into one, Moni. So feel free to answer however you want.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So let's see. We were talking about the different types of Prince awareness, and I just wanted to make sure this got stated, and that is whether it's picture books, novels, magazines, digital formats, you know, in the year 2021, they need to be able to, you know, now that we've been distance learning with all the tablets, these are all different forms of literacy that graphic novels works right into promoting. And one thing that I can say too, I just wanted to reiterate, is that there's a lot of strong evidence for supporting the notion that allowing kids to choose what they want to read will promote a love of reading and learning for life. As far as the creativity aspect, I mean, I'm not a creator. Maggie is the one definitely to speak on that. But I do know that as an educator, I have presented young people and even young adults with blank panels in order for them to kind of like plan out a little comic. And you'd be surprised. And actually too, our nonprofit has worked with Make-A-Wish San Diego because there are so many young people who are interested. They have like little characters in mind, illustrations, and they want to learn, how does a creator actually bring that to life, and what does it take to write one of those stories? And so I've just seen it firsthand basically. And there's a lot of social emotional learning and things you can work through by telling your story. There's obviously a lot of creativity in sort of putting out whatever story you have in your mind and in your heart. So yeah, just anything that gets kids thinking. You don't have to be a very strong reader. You don't have to be a wonderful illustrator. You know, you don't have to be overly skilled. It all takes practice, but it's definitely an accessible, fun, and creative place to start.
Can I add on to that actually, Kari? I thought of one other thing that I was going to say. It's just that, like Moni was saying, you can really create your own characters. So on one hand, you can really, graphic novels can really, and creating your own graphic novels can really play into the element of fantasy and your imagination. So in my book, there's a lunchbox that thinks. Graphic novels are like very well known for having make-believe creatures and zombies and, you know, things from the imagination that really play into where kids are at. And then like Moni said, it's very forgiving. You don't have to be a fine artist. You don't have to have the best skills ever. You really just have to have the heart, like we were talking about, and the ideas. So that's one other thing I wanted to add.
That's great. And that sets us up really well for the next two workshops in our graphic novel summer series. We've got our friends here coming back, and we've got a how to write your own graphic novel and a read aloud plus a fun character development activity to spark the creativity and minds of young learners all over. So very excited about that. And now we can get to the Spanish stuff. So go ahead, Isabella, if you want to start.
Yeah. Bueno, Maggie empezó describiendo las habilidades específicas como vocabulario, comprensión de la estructura de una novela gráfica, como un inicio, la intermedio y el final. Y también estaba escribiendo que las novelas gráficas enseñan el diseño y el formato de las novelas gráficas, y los niños pueden ver dónde se ponen los diferentes fotos, y también con los diferentes fotos y caracteres aprenden de las expresiones faciales de los personajes, y los niños aprenden a identificar y leer emociones y sentimientos. Y aprenden el desarrollo social y emocional. También aprenden a hacer inferencias basadas en pistas de las imágenes, que es una habilidad muy importante. Y o aprenden de la importancia y cómo sirve el diálogo, que pueden tomar turnos y que los personajes tienen una ida y vuelta. Y también ella añadió que es importante para los niños a tener una imaginación y crear diferentes caracteres. Y no tienen que hacerlo perfectos, solo tienen que tener una pasión para lo que hacen y están aprendiendo muchas habilidades importantes a través de las novelas gráficas.
Great. Y también Moni dijo los diferentes tipos de conhencia, empresas son importantes. Libros ilustrados, novelas, revistas, formatos digitales y novelas gráficas. Todo presentan a los lectores y estudiantes de inglés como segundo idioma. Pienso que, sí, español. Segundo idioma, el aspecto de materiales que se presentará en situaciones condicionadas. Además, existe evidencia sólida que respaldar la noción de que permitir que los niños elijan lo que quieren leer promueve su amor y por la lectora es el aprendizaje. Las novelas gráficas son extremadamente populares en que el mercado K-12 porque hay un título de interés para cualquier lector. También, así como las novelas gráficas son accesibles como formato de lectura, debido a las ilustraciones y los bloques de palabras generalmente más cortos, la creatividad del diseño de globo de palabras con ilustración de panel permite la libertad de crear su propia historias y contarles sin tener que ser un buen lector o un doctor de inglés. Well, since I kind of asked the last two questions as one question, I think we're good. Is there anything additional that you guys would like to share about graphic novels before I wrap us up and tell everyone what's coming up in our workshop series? Moni, Maggie, either of you. Give it.
I think everybody needs to read Maggie's series. I know I'll be checking it out because I think my 8-year-old will really enjoy it. So I thank you for all of you for introducing me to her series and to her. This has been lovely. And then the only other thing is if we've gotten anything through to you today, it's that graphic novels are a form of reading, valid form of literacy and learning. And I hope that you'll work with, whether it's a teacher or a local librarian, or find some resources to help you use graphic novels with your kids or with your language learning. We say there's a comic for everyone, and comics are for everyone. So basically, there is a type of comic for every person and whatever you're looking for. So hope you'll find yours.
And I guess I'll just add on to a similar note is that I know plenty of grown-ups, because I know there's some grown-ups who've tuned in who love graphic novels also. Yeah, and even for, this age range, there are adults who said that they really loved it. So I think it's a really fun, engaging way for parents to see what their kids are reading as well. And there is a book number 2 coming out in January. So you can watch out for that, because I know everybody's going to run out and go get this book and wonder where's the next one. So it's coming out in January. And I hope to see the families again for the interactive portion next month for the character development workshop. Thank you, guys.
Wonderful. All right. Moni dice sus palabras final. Leer la novela de Maggie es una gran serie y leer novelas gráficas. Hay un cómico para todos y todos pueden despuntar de un cómico. Y Maggie, Isabella.
Maggie añadió que también hay muchos adultos que aman novelas gráficas como Geraldine Pu y es una forma muy divertida para ver lo que está leyendo sus hijos. Y también quiere informarlos que en enero, el siguiente enero, va a salir el segundo libro de Geraldine Pu. Entonces, deseamos que estén emocionados para eso. Y ella desea verlos en el siguiente taller, en el mes siguiente, para hablar más sobre novelas gráficas.
Great. And exactly what they were saying. I've got the flyer up here. So thank you again, Moni and Maggie, for joining us today. We're going to be excited to have you back as part of our graphic novel summer workshop series. We've got 2 kids workshops coming up on August 12th. Use your own story to write a graphic novel. And then on the 19th, we have a fun and interactive read aloud from Maggie. And that's going to be followed by her character development activity. And they're both starting at 4 p.m. Eastern time. They're both on Thursdays. So we're excited to join you then. You can join us at the Zoom link, or you can always join us on Facebook Live. We also have tons of other resources on our website. And if there are any other resources that you might be looking for, please feel free to reach out to Nardine. We've got her email for you. I'll put it in the comments in our Facebooks here. So you'll be able to reach out to her for any additional themes, topics you would like us to discuss. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. I'll translate into Spanish and then we'll say goodbye. Muchas gracias, Moni y Maggie, por compartir. Estamos emocionados de traerles 2 talleres más sobre novelas gráficas, solo para niños. Use a nuestras nuevamente el 12 de agosto y el 19 de agosto para aprender a escribir su propia novela gráfica y escuchar una lectura en voz alta de Maggie, una divertida actividad de personajes. Y Reach Out and Read Greater New York tiene toneladas de recursos virtuales en nuestro sitio de web. Si está buscando un taller sobre un tema específico, hagan solo saber comunicar con Nardine and site support at reachoutandreadnyc.org if that's in the comments again. All right, everyone. Thanks again. We'll put us back on screen here as we say goodbye. Thanks for joining us. So excited to have you here. And we'll see you next time. Hope you can join us for some more graphic novel discussions. Take care.
Thank you.